What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 210 of the Hoots podcast. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute. Has Brother Carter nefariously taken over the broadcast once again? Has he fired Josh or furloughed Josh? Because you don't fire people in the age of COVID. Has he furloughed Josh as part of reshaping some things in Director of Operations land? No, that's not the case. We like to mix things up here on the podcast at Hoots, and Brother Adam has asked if I would be gracious enough to be your host, your MC, your paragon of virtue for the next hour and a half or however long it is that we're going to speak. So I am Derek Stoughton, otherwise known as Brother Carter. You can find me on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Derek Stoughton. You can follow me on Instagram at Derek006. And also check out my work on WrestlingRumors.net. We have so much to talk about this week. I wish that we had Clint Bobski and John Johnson here to help us bring things down, but unfortunately we don't. So joining me this week is the Chet Cheddarfield to my Lance Catamaran, the one and only producer, creator, and brains behind the Hoots podcast. It is the wonderful Joshie Lopez. Josh, what's going on, my man?
I appreciate you, Brother Carter. How's it going, everybody? I like to just remind everybody, I am not drunk like Chet Cheddarfield right now. I am part of the straight edge community, so I'm the anti-Chet Cheddarfield.
So I guess you would be the Lance Catamaran then, because I'm currently sipping on some there isn't any libations in this cup. It's just a smoothie, but the audience doesn't need to know that.
That's a very good point. I love Southpaw Regional Wrestling. It's the best. No, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for checking out the show each and every single week. We're almost getting up to 170,000 downloads on Anchor, which is pretty awesome. You guys are we've been very grateful for you guys' support over the last couple of years. And like Brooke Carter said it off in the beginning, we like to switch it up. And I like to remind everybody that this is not solely my own show. I don't have that big of an ego where I need to host every single episode of the Hoots podcast. Without guys like Brother Carter or Adam, and the list goes on and on, this show does not exist. So it's a brotherhood. And basically all it is just talking to each other. It's not really a sports center or first take type of show, even though it would be nice to have a female presence and have a moderator on here. But we got a great show for you guys for this week, and just appreciate the support as always.
Absolutely. And thank you, Josh, for the opportunity to be on this wonderful platform. And like you said, you've assembled quite a cast of characters, as all great shows have. You know, you've got your people in charge, you've got your comedy reliefs, you've got your people who are the Byron Saxtons, you know, and some people have referred to me as the Byron Saxton of this podcast, but you know.
I'll say this. I don't know if there's a wrestling podcast that has a crew that's been able to be organically funny and quick on their feet than we do.
Right. It's awesome. It's fantastic. Well, Josh, before we get into the wrestling talk, and we have a lot that we're going to talk about today, guys. We're going to break down Backlash and the wonderful matches that took place there. We're going to get into Raw. We're going to briefly talk about NXT and then and AEW. And Josh, we're actually going to be debuting a new segment when we get into our talk about AEW this week. And I'm very excited about debuting that new segment this week. We're also going to preview SmackDown, since we're not going to talk about last week's SmackDown since this was just the lead up into Backlash. So we'll preview next week's SmackDown, and then Josh is going to he's going to introduce a new segment as well this week. So we're very, very excited about that. And really, Josh, if you think about it, it could be a combination of two segments. It could be your new segment along with the Best for Business segment, which we sometimes bring about. And then Josh, we have one other thing that we're going to talk about. Josh has a little monologue he's going to give at the end of the show today. But before we get into that, Josh, it's been a crazy week in the world of sports, has it not? There's been a couple of things that have been going on in the sports world that have been somewhat questionable, and it really made us we have a question here before we get in. Brett is asking us, who is the Paul Heyman of the bunch? That's probably brother Adam. Yeah, he's probably the.
I have no filter, and here's the fun part of the Who's podcast: I can't get fired or demoted. So
That's right. Unlike Mr. Heyman, other people cannot get. By the way, also Brett, thank you for watching. And if those of you guys are on YouTube, you can check out the live broadcast of this. Just follow the Hoots podcast on YouTube. Also, I forgot to mention, please make sure that you rate this podcast, give it 4 or 5-star review. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere that you get your podcasts. I happen to listen to I use an app called Overcast on my phone, which is how I get my podcasts, and I love it. So anywhere that you can get your podcasts, be sure to download us, check us out, leave us a 4 or 5-star review, hit us up on social media. We would love to hear from you. But Josh, you live in Chicago,
correct,
home of 2 very well-known baseball teams. And I know that there is always some debate about the Cubs versus the White Sox. I know you happen to be a White Sox fan. Go Cubs, go. But on the it's one of the most catchiest songs in sports. It is one of the most catchy songs in sport.
Carry on, Saxton. Come on.
You be careful. I'm going to give you a rating. I'm going to give you a numeric rating before I get a stunner.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because B-Rob hit me up the other day. It's like, I think it's time for a performance evaluation. I think we need to do that on next week's episode.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it is time for a performance. Dude, if we could get B-Rob, if we could get B-Rob and Mitchell on for one of these episodes, oh, man.
That'll be a riot.
Oh, golly. Maybe we can shoot for that. But anyways, we'll get into that. But Josh, you live in a city with 2 baseball teams, and Major League Baseball has kind of been a disaster recently with Commissioner Rob Manfred coming out and saying that, we're going to have a season. Brett, yes, thank you. Wonderful. Yes. It's with Commissioner Rob Manfred saying we're going to have a season, but now all of a sudden they're saying that we're not going to have a season, and the owners can't agree with the commission, who can't agree with the players. And Josh, what's your take on all of this? This just seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Oh man, you know, I'm looking towards my left. I have a baseball that I won from a championship game when I was, I don't know, maybe like 10 years old. Like a game, we won like the championship for our park district league here in Chicago for Smith Park, and I played baseball a lot when I was younger. I was first base, and I would never say that I'd be as talented to say that I could be in the pros one day, but I thought I was a pretty good baseball player back then, and I loved baseball. Now, notwithstanding, my favorite sport of all time is the NFL, but I always been a big baseball fan too. Obviously, you mentioned I am a White Sox fan. I am not a Cubs fan who gets drunk as their excuse to go to Wrigley Field.
Hey, Josh, can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, please.
Is Wrigley Field as wonderful of a park as everybody says it is?
No. Inside, it looks nice. Everything you thought about the ivies, it's all there. But the surrounding area, the concourse area, it's a complete dumpster fire. Okay.
So is it just one of those iconic, because it's been around for so long? You go mostly for the nostalgia and for the fact to say that you've been to Wrigley Field.
Yes, I agree with all that. Also, it's the only professional sports venue that I know that's in a literal neighborhood. Usually you have these stadiums and baseball parks where they're by the downtown area, or you got like a close highway or rampway section, like, obviously with the Superdome right down there, right in the Smoothie King Center. So it's a little different with Wrigley Field. You take the blue line from Chicago. No, actually, you take the red line from downtown. Red line all the way down to Addison, and you'll see it right there. Addison and Clark Avenue.
So you can just take the train and go right to the park.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Not only for Wrigley Field, but also for I call it Comiskey Park.
Comiskey Park, yeah.
Guaranteed rate field. You can do that on the south side too. I always proceed with everybody when it comes to Chicago, and I told Brother Carter this before. Please bring a bulletproof vest. Yes.
For all its faults, Josh, I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but for all of its faults, and you and I have talked about this before because I've been to Chicago many times. Chicago, they've got public transit figured out, no question about it. Like if there's, for all its faults, Chicago does public transit very, very well.
Right.
And that's awesome. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I've always been a big baseball fan, and selfishly, in a way, I was really excited for this upcoming season because there's looked like a chance for the White Sox, not to say to win the World Series, but make some steam as they're in this transitioning out of a rebuild phase for their organization, right? And I wanted to see how that was going to go, see how Eloy Jimenez was going to do. Thank you, Cubs, for that, by the way. Also, I wanted to see with the new additions that we have from Grandal to Dallas Keuchel to Edwin Encarnacion, which I forgot that he was on our team, which is pretty cool. And I just wanted to see what the Sox were going to do. And then obviously on the other side of the city, you got the Cubs, and David Ross is the new manager of the team after they got rid of Joe Madden. Those who knew my experience in the sports drive know that I feel like the Chicago media did Joe Madden no favors. The guy brought the team in the city a world championship that they never thought they would see in their life. Yet it's kind of similar to wrestling fans where they try to nitpick the littlest things to fit their narrative on somebody. And sooner or later, whether it's sports or athletes, they get tired of this shit because they're human beings too. So, it's no. Obviously, Stevie Wonder can figure this out. Like baseball has lost a lot of steam and momentum with casual sports fans over the last couple of years. To me, it's the fourth relevant sport here in the United States. I think hockey has surpassed it, especially from a postseason point of view. The games have gotten boring. It's cool. Sometimes I'll go with my dad to Sox games, and that's the time where we get to hang out with each other. But I'll be honest, over the couple of years, I haven't catch up with baseball as much as I did back when I was younger. And just seeing this back and forth and tap dancing, and 1 week, we're getting closer to the deal. Next week, we're not. Then we have got baseball players going on their Twitch streams, like saying, I'm not going to play. I can't get the Rona. And we get to these debates about, why are athletes crying poor about losing money during a pandemic where over 50 million people are at home without a job? And it's just so effing embarrassing, not only for the sport, but just as society as a whole, because we got a CBA debate in the middle of a pandemic. And this is the same sport that said they want to be the first sport back during this whole coronavirus thing, right? And they're still bickering. It's June 18th, and we still haven't figured out whether we're going to have baseball or not. I don't know what to trust with this whole coronavirus. I'm just going to be honest with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that it's not real or it's not serious. Obviously, we all know what's going on. I'm saying I don't trust the metrics and what's really going on and when this is going to end. I don't know. And the fact is, when you have guys like Rob Manfred, who's not a good commissioner of baseball, he hasn't been good commissioner since he took over. You would think right now this would be the perfect time for baseball to capture that audience. And instead, they're sticking to their fucking old school stances and beliefs and traditions of how things are done with a union and the player association. And it's just all over the place. Why you think there's not a union in professional wrestling? Because of stuff like this. And that's not to say that a union would help for performer safety and health and assurances and all that stuff. I get that from that point of view. But I just think baseball out of all sports needs a reality check. I know a lot of people give Roger Goodell crap for what he does, and obviously he's not a good commissioner. But one thing's for certain, the NFL is the most talked about sport in the United States. Obviously, soccer is bigger, more domestic and internationally, but you can't deny that NFL is the most popular sport in the United States, and baseball has just completely dropped the ball in this entire situation, and it's embarrassing. Like I heard one of my favorite radio hosts here in Chicago, David Kaplan on ESPN 1000 the other day. He's like, "Would you care, even with everything that's going on, would you care if baseball came back this season or not?" I don't know how to answer that question, and that's sad. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, well, just a couple things on that, Josh. You talked about the union thing, why professional wrestling doesn't have a union. Isn't that what happened in WCW, where they let the people take over and the wrestlers take over? And what happened to that company? It completely went down the toilet. You know, Bret Hart talked about that. He had an interview with WWE Backstage, and he talked about, like, it was just completely mismanaged company. All Bischoff wanted to do, I know I'm cutting a little bit here. All Bischoff wanted to do was appease Hogan. And, you know, Hogan was running the shots. So, I mean, that was just a complete dumpster over there in WCW. So you're right. Unions, and JR said it best. In WWE, for good or for bad, you know who the warden is. You know who the boss is. So, you know, there's a sense of leadership there. Again, fair or foul, that's how it works. But going to your points about baseball, Josh, you know, you were talking about how hockey has surpassed baseball. And I know you're not a big fan of this sport, but Josh, you could make an argument that college football has surpassed baseball. If you think about it, just think about the revenue streams, the marketing, all what you hear talked about in the news. I mean, college football gets more primetime views than baseball does in some cases. Mm-hmm. So, you know, college football is becoming its own entity, its own business as it is, especially with the Power 5 schools. You know, all the major universities across the country. So, you know, you got to think about that. And then also, Josh, to me, the biggest issue with this, and you hit this right on the head, this was baseball's perfect opportunity to be relevant again. With everything in the coronavirus, this is the perfect. Baseball is one of the perfect sports baseball is one of the perfect sports to have back. Because you can play it in an open field. You can test people before they come in. If fans want to come in, they can sit far apart, you know, and social distance themselves. So there's nothing else going on right now. There's no hockey. There's no there's no basketball. Yeah, there's no basketball. MMA is back in limited capacities. Boxing is back in limited capacities. So this was the perfect time for baseball to be relevant again. You don't think people would sit and watch baseball games because there's nothing else on TV? Of course they would. So it's just the perfect opportunity. It's just so sad.
Not only that, think about this. They just came out with a ESPN 30 for 30 the other night, Long Gone Summer, about Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire when baseball was really relevant. And guess what? The feedback was shoulder shrugs. I heard the people on ESPN 1000, that's the only sports station I listen to here in Chicago, so that's why I keep bringing them up. They were mentioning how boring it was. It wasn't really juicy or whatever. I mean, obviously there was a high bar as standard as far as what to follow The Last Dance as far as documentaries are concerned. But still, the appetite of baseball was there, and they didn't capitalize on it. And it's on them. Everybody says, oh, baseball needs to get into the 21st century and appeal to younger kids. Younger kids, yeah, maybe some play around the world in baseball, but it's not like how I was when I was younger. Obviously, we have an age difference from us here on the show. I knew how big baseball was when I was a kid, and it's totally been upside down since.
Well, and you know, you said it, Josh. Baseball is becoming more of a international sport as opposed to a sport in the United States. You know, it's big in South America. They get a lot of players from there, from China and Japan and over in Asia and that part of the world. You know, that's where baseball is really it's just dwindling in the States. And I don't know if it's because of its bad marketing or because football is just a more exciting game. I mean, baseball, if you think about it in its most pure form, baseball isn't that exciting of a sport, you know? So
yeah,
it's, you know, and I hate saying that because I grew up playing baseball too. And I mean, I love going to the ballpark and watching a game live. It's so much fun. Baseball games live are a lot of fun, but I can't watch a baseball game on TV. Like, it's just, you know, but I would if there was nothing else on. Right?
Yeah, I agree with Brett here because it gave you something to talk about. Just the overall game experience when you're watching something, it's escape. What have we been talking about since this whole lockdown started? That wrestling's been an escape, and I had to remind people, hey, we still have wrestling here. Let's not take it for granted because we still want to act like we have to book these shows as if there's a 20,000 seat filled capacity crowd. And I still see it every single week when there's a Raw episode going on. People talk about, they obviously they don't know how to format shows anymore. Dude, it's a fucking pandemic. Who cares? Like, I'm sorry if I'm being too blunt right now, guys, but like, I'm more than happy that wrestling is still here, whether it's AEW or WWE, wherever it is. The fact that we still got wrestling on television, because it's my escape. And I'm sorry if I'm the only media member that doesn't take it for granted, Like, yes, not every show, not every segment on a wrestling show is going to be for you. That's the fucking point. And when you have a pandemic and way more issues to really be upset about, like I mentioned last week with this George Floyd stuff, or the week prior, again, it always goes back to square one. Find the right hills to die on. And when you have something like wrestling that's been precious to us since we've been kids, and you want to argue about semantic things and things that really don't matter at the end of the day. And that's kind of how it is with baseball and the player association. The owners and the player association, they're all being petty towards each other. You don't know what's right from wrong. And it's just really sickening. And then we got the NBA and we got Kyrie Irving coming out saying, "Oh, I don't know if the players should play." And then the next second he's like, "Oh, we should. The players are able to start their own league." Okay, we're getting comments from a guy who said the Earth is flat. Think about that. Kyrie Irving said that the Earth is flat. Come on, man.
Jeez. Now that's another whole thing, Josh, is the NBA thing. That's absolutely ridiculous. And they're saying that the players shouldn't play so that they can use that opportunity to advocate for social justice. Like, what? What are you talking about? Like, if anything, and they talked about this, and I know I keep bringing up First Take, but I watch First Take a lot, and I really respect what they have to say. And they're like, that is your platform,
right?
Playing in these games and restarting the season, that is your platform. Now, if you're worried about getting coronavirus and you're worried about, the health of your family, that's one thing. That's why Roman Reigns isn't on television, is because he's worried about his health. And okay, if that's your reason, cool. I have no problem with that. But if your reason is that you want to use it to fight social injustice, like, what bigger platform do you have than 20 million people who are going to turn into your playoffs? Like, come on, man. That's ridiculous.
I don't think we realize how much escapes could actually help people who deal with mental strain and the everyday life as a human. I'm not going to come on here and begrudge somebody who wants to empower themselves by helping people during this time period with social justice. It should have been done 300, 400 years ago, but this still systemic issue continues on to this day. And it's like, at some point, like, it's crazy, man. All the stuff that's going on right now. It's like, how hard it is that you need to look yourself in the mirror and understand right from wrong. Like, do you literally need somebody to slap you in the face to actually wake you up? Like, I mean, this is different for me because I have family members who make excuses for Trump, and I'm sure we all have those type of people in our life, and that's why I choose to stay away from politics, because I've never been a Democratic or Republican. Like, just for me, how I am, Brett Carter. If I can't think for myself, what am I doing with my life? And it's just really unfortunate the fact that we have baseball that could be capitalizing on something, and they're being spiteful out of money. And then you have 8 owners saying, "Oh, I don't know if we want to come back for baseball this year." If you're an owner and you don't want baseball to come back this season, just get rid of the team.
Right.
Like, find somebody else to replace you because you're not there. You don't have the love for the sport. Rob Manfred does not love the sport. He went on and said that the World Series is a piece of metal when the Houston Astros got caught with their cheating scandal. And man, it's just embarrassing. It's really fortunate, and that's another reason why I'm even more prouder to be a wrestling fan right now, because we don't have to deal with crap like this.
Right. I will say, Josh, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, Mike Greenberg a couple nights ago did an interview with all the different commissioners.
I saw that.
Yeah, so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, that was actually really cool and really well done. So,
Mike Greenberg has always been a really good broadcaster. The guy's done an amazing job, not only from a radio point of view with Mike and Mike, but having the transition of being like an anchor on a talk morning show like that, where it's guys are talking over each other, Marcus Spears being defensive,
swag,
guys like Dominique. Guys like Dominique Foxworth taking words out of context. It's not an easy show to host where you got people going in a zillion different directions, Right. Speaking of the NBA really quick before we move on, I saw that they're being in the Disney bubble in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's certain areas in Orlando I advise people to stay away from during this time of the year or any time of the year. But also, question for you.
Yes.
Let's say you were covering the NBA and you're invited, like you have your own place, you have as much distance where you're not going to contract the virus, right? Mm-hmm. Who would you bring to Orlando with you at the Disney bubble?
Ooh. Are you saying you want to come, Josh? Do you want to come with me to the Disney bubble?
I might as well call Orlando my home away from home.
Come on. You can come, you'll be good. I'll come. Come on, you be good. Yeah, you come with me, you'll be all good.
All right.
Last thing I'll say, Josh, and then we'll move on, and then we'll get into some wrestling talk.
Really quick on the Disney point. Did you ever go to Disney World or Disneyland?
I did. No, I've been to both, actually. I've been to both. And Disney World is far superior to Disneyland. No question about it. Disney World. And, I went a couple years ago, and I actually didn't think I was going to have fun because I'm not a big theme park kind of guy.
Neither.
But I would go back tomorrow. In a normal time. It was a lot of fun. They put so much detail into everything. It's very, very, very well done.
Yes, it is.
So it's fantastic.
All right, go ahead, Brooke.
Last thing I'm going to say, Josh, is we're talking about all these issues and all these kind of things. The problem is people are just afraid to have an opinion. Just have your own opinion and don't get your opinion from one source and one source only. That's the biggest problem I think that we run into is people just find one source of information that they like, and all of a sudden that becomes their talking points.
Exactly.
But when someone challenges that, they just say louder the talking point that they heard on, or they say, "Oh, you're stupid. You're an idiot." And that's the problem is people they stick behind their opinion. Everybody else is wrong. And they're not afraid to say, "Oh, I might actually be wrong about something."
Yeah. What do you think Twitter exists for?
Oh, Jesus. You know what, Josh? Twitter exists to piss off wrestling fans. That's why Twitter exists.
Oh God.
And we're gonna get in. By the way, we're gonna get into a tweet a little bit later on in the show.
Yep.
But let's go ahead and get into some wrestling talk since that is what we're doing here. Josh, we are coming off the heels of Backlash, which happened this past Sunday, featuring the greatest wrestling match of all time between Edge and Randy Orton, and we're gonna get into that here in a second. But overall, I thought that. Well, let's start with you, Josh. What were your overall thoughts of Backlash? And just before we get into each of the individual matches, but just overall thoughts of Backlash.
I thought Backlash was a solid show from top to bottom. It doesn't go. I'm not oblivious to noticing that these pay-per-views have been ending a lot earlier than it has been over the last couple of years. And for me, I'm sure I appreciate where it's less being decided about. I'm also aware that it's probably beneficial for guys like you and everybody else who just watches the regular pay-per-view where it doesn't stop. Like, you just watch it for what it is, and you also still are able to enjoy your night now after these pay-per-views are over, as opposed to maybe like 2016 where some of these pay-per-views would end at 11 or 11:30 Eastern time, something like that.
WrestleMania 35 was 5 hours plus the pre-show. Like, it was literally a 7-hour show.
Hey, WrestleMania could be 10 hours. I don't care. People could watch the Super Bowl from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, come on.
All day, man. But go ahead.
Yeah. So overall, I thought the show was good for what it was. I just think the overall flow of the show, the fact the runtime was shorter, I feel like you're getting more out of these shows, and maybe you want more out of certain things when you're watching these pay-per-views where you have a shorter runtime for these pay-per-views. So overall, I thought it was a good experience, and we'll get into the matches right now.
No, I want to say I agree with you 100%, man. I love the shorter time period for a pay-per-view. I mean, I think a pay-per-view should be 3 hours maximum. If you want to say the big four, if you want to make them 4 hours, fine. Like, I'm okay with WrestleMania or SummerSlam being a 4-hour show, because those are your two bigger shows. So I'm okay with that. I think that's cool. I think we definitely have more of that. For me, I thought Backlash, it was an okay show. I think it started kind of slow, but then got better as the show went on. You know, and definitely the matches to me seemed to increase in quality as we got further along. And the main event was something really special between two of the absolute best of all time. But we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I thought it started out just a little bit slow, and the matches were okay.
Which ones in particular are you talking about, though?
Okay, well, let's get into it. So the first match, and I think the first match was part of the reason, because Josh, when was the last time that the two women that that are holding the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships were relevant? Did you catch that? I'm sorry. I might have cut out there.
I did. I did. Let's see, 2017, okay. 2016.
Yeah. You and I were talking about this. We're like, when are Bayley and Sasha going to be a main event thing? I just don't see it.
Right. Here's one thing I want to make clear about that. When I talk about Bayley and Sasha, what they do in the ring has nothing to do with my indifference with them. It's character that right. I'm indifferent. Like, their match at the beginning of the show was good. Like, I thought it was a really good match. Kind of some quick spots, kind of AEW field tag match in the beginning. Those little clunky there at times, but I thought the match was good, and it was a good spotlight for the Iconics, who get better to ring each time I see them perform now. And it's, you know me, anytime Alexa Bliss is on my screen, it's always a good day. So, I don't want people to take away that I don't like anything that Bayley does and she has nothing to offer. I'm just indifferent. And I want to give shout out to my guy Hoodie on this, because I've been saying this over the last 2 months. We all know that this whole split is going to happen with Bayley and Sasha, and they're going to have a feud over the SmackDown Women's title. I put the poll out on Twitter the other day. Is Sasha Banks and Bayley a main event program in 2020? And my answer to that is no. I have my reasons. And, it's like, yes, they had one or two great matches in 2015, and that I Quit, the Iron Woman match, obviously, right, for the TakeOver show. But it's not like these two haven't fought each other one-on-one since then. And that's what I think people keep forgetting. We keep thinking, we're going to recreate the magic of 2015. So you're telling me you could have the same match as Sasha Banks as a babyface and Bayley as a heel as you did vice versa at TakeOver Brooklyn. Think about that. I'm sorry, that does not scream main event to me. Is Sasha a mainstream attraction and could be a superstar like that? Absolutely. I I will never take that away from her. She's very talented. She's hot. We all know what Sasha Banks is, right?
Oh yeah.
But let's be honest. Let's be honest. When it comes to the ring and just where things are right now, you're not going to see her succeed somebody like a Charlotte Flair or even a Becky Lynch or even Paige if she was still wrestling. And for me personally, I did not think that Bayley and Sasha needed the women's tag team titles to get into their feud. I did it. And that's just the thing. Maybe there's too many titles right now in wrestling where like how many other women tag teams you could form that could actually make stock out of it, you know? But for what the match was, I thought it was fine.
Okay. You know, and I'm not saying that the match, like, I didn't dislike any match on Backlash. I mean, like, I thought it was a good show. Like, I didn't dislike, I didn't think it was a bad match, but it was just kind of one of those, okay, it was okay. It was a nice match. And then same thing with Apollo Crews and Andrade. Their match was good.
Solid. Yep.
Solid. It's good. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy was fine. Yeah, no problems there.
I really like the physicality in that match. Maybe I'm kind of more like a traditional wrestling fan in that sense. I just like really hard hitting pro wrestling matches. I thought that was really good. And Jeff Hardy can still go, man. Even to all the wear and tear that guy's gone through with his body, the guy still could go. Obviously we could tell that it was going to bleed into Extreme Rules. They're going to have some type of gimmicky match at their show. By the way, what was your thoughts of the new logo that they showed for Extreme Rules?
I liked it. I thought it was really cool. The green and the purple, I thought that was really, really, really cool. I liked it a lot. At
first, I thought there was like an ECW tribute, but it looked more like Team Extreme from back to you.
Well, maybe Jeff Hardy's gonna have to go back to his roots. I doubt that brother Moore will be able to get out of his AEW contract for one night only. But
yeah, he needs to get his lips off Tony Khan's ass first. But
oh well, that's all right because Sammy Guevara gets to pick which version of Matt Hardy he's going to be. It actually could be kind of funny, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. I thought that the Nia Jax Asuka match was okay. I mean, Asuka definitely carried that match. There's no question about it because she's my number 2 right behind Charlotte Flair. I mean, Charlotte Flair and Asuka are the 2 best female wrestlers in the world. There's no, to me, and the rest of it, it's not close. Like they have clearly separated themselves from the pack and everybody else. And that's not taking away from the rest of the roster because there is some wonderful talent in WWE. I think Becky Lynch is very solid. I think Dana Brooke is solid. I'm sad we haven't seen more of Dana Brooke on television. I like Liv Morgan. You've convinced me on Liv Morgan. Natty's fine. We're gonna get to Natty more into Raw because I actually like what they're going to be doing with what they might be doing with Natty going forward. And I had some ideas about that. Sasha and Bayley are fine. In NXT, you've got some wonderful talent down in NXT with Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm, Shotzi Blackheart, Tegan Knox. There's some great talent. Dakota Kai. Yeah. There's a bunch of talent. But to me, Charlotte and Asuka have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. So
they're elite. Yes, they're very elite.
Elite, unlike other people that call themselves elite.
I agree with you. The match really didn't do much for me. I think some people get dampened down with the whole double count out finishes, and I could maybe understand it for a certain extent, but I just think it was the wrong match pairing. The double count out thing really doesn't match me. That's kind of like subjective. Oh, this is just a lazy way to get away out of the match. Okay, so Asuka beats Nia clean, and you're doing another shoulder shrug if that happens. You know where I'm going with that. Like you can have any finish in the world in WWE specifically that I'm talking about, and people are gonna have their own opinions on it because, like we said, people have their own narratives and find their things to harp on. But here's the thing: when Asuka got the title from Becky, right, and Becky made her announcement for her pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
why wasn't Shayna Baszler there to attack Asuka?
No.
This is not a knock on Nia Jax, but wrong pairing and wrong time. Now, here's the thing. Asuka won the title, right? If Baszler came in and attacked her and they had the match and Baszler won, no, I would not think that would hurt Asuka because Asuka didn't really do anything to earn the title. She won the briefcase. The title was handed to her. So we had different circumstances. I think context goes out a window a lot of times when it comes to WWE shows. I really do. Because we only look things at the surface. Okay, this person lost. That means they're buried. This person had a title shot. Oh, they're not deserving of it. Or they get too many title shots, or feuds go way too long. I remember people like, oh my God, when are Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin going to stop fighting each other? You know, stuff like that. But honestly, Shayna Baszler, originally, if we didn't know if Becky got pregnant or not, you would think that Baszler would have fought Becky at Backlash, right? Why is Shayna Baszler not on the show for the last month? That's the question I have.
Sure. Yeah, I know there were some reports coming out. I'll have to go back and look and why Shayna Baszler was out. Do you remember why she's out?
I wasn't sure if it was an injury. I didn't hear anything about that. I mean, who really got injured in the corporate ladder match? Bruce Pritchard.
Oh God. Let me see if I can look.
I love you. I love Bruce Pritchard.
Dude, I'm telling you, he is great, and I think he's now in charge of both shows.
We can talk about that later on.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna get into that. Okay, hang on. Let's look it up. Looking it up here. By the way, you can find all your wrestling information at WrestlingRumors.net.
Correct.
Apparently, Baszler has been absent. Now, this is according to Dave Meltzer. Baszler has been absent from Raw to make Nia Jax the lone heel on the show, which to me makes absolutely no sense.
That's my point right there.
That makes no sense.
You had the person right there that was just feuding with Becky, and you take her off of television because we got to feature Nia Jax for the 20th time already.
I don't know, but anyways,
here's the balance with me. Like that's the stuff with WWE stuff that I could point out that doesn't need to be the case, but also that's not also say that everything they do sucks. See, you can have that balance right there.
Of course.
What was the next match after that one?
Before we get into the main three, which I thought the final three matches were fantastic. All for different reasons, which we'll get into. Braun Strowman defending the Universal Championship against Miz and Morrison. Obviously, the finish was to set up some tension between Miz and Morrison when Miz instinctively pulled Morrison off so he could win the title himself. Miz and Morrison, I really, really, really hope that they don't split up Miz and Morrison, because those two together have been absolutely freaking hilarious together. I love everything Miz and Morrison do. When they were playing all those antics against Braun Strowman and acting like all ridiculous, oh my God, it was their comedic timing is great. Obviously, it looks like we're going to be setting up the return of Bray Wyatt here, which we'll get into a little bit, leading us into SummerSlam. And I definitely think we'll see Strowman and Wyatt again at SummerSlam. But yeah, so I thought actually that was a pretty good match. Miz and Morrison have great chemistry. Braun Strowman's obviously great in the ring, so I thought that was a great match. What did you think of that match, Josh?
Let's give a shout out to the music video first off.
Oh, that was awesome. Yes. Oh, I was dying laughing. It was great. What do you think of the Strowman Express?
The gimmick name is what it is for me. I'll say the new match, not the match graphics, but the entrance graphics for Braun Strowman on the stage. I think those look pretty cool. Actually,
cool. I like that.
The train tracks and stuff that's cool. I was trying to remember. There's a team out there that's a really weird name. Oh, the Natural Nightmares. How generic and hokey that is.
Josh, save that, because we're going to get into that when we debut our new segment here in about 30 minutes. But go ahead.
I thought this match was where it was, maximizing the time. I think the match only went like 8 minutes. That was also another takeaway I had from the pay-per-view where some matches didn't overstay their welcome. That's something that I noticed on the pay-per-view on Sunday. I thought the action was good. I was just obviously I'm not surprised that Miz pulled Morrison off. Character-wise, obviously Miz's ego can't look at himself in the mirror. He knows he has an ego.
I will say, Josh, I kind of hoped that in a way I would have been okay if Miz and Morrison would have won if they would have let him do the Freebird rule, where either of them could defend the Universal Championship.
Well, here's my thing. I was kind of hoping that Otis would cash in on Sunday. Because honestly, for me, like I like Braun Strowman. I think he's a good performer. I just don't think him as the Universal Champion is making any of a difference on the shows right now.
No, but he's kind of, and I hate to say this, but he's kind of the placeholder right now.
Yeah, it's actually the big dog's title. Right, exactly. Nobody wants to say it.
Roman Reigns' title, but unfortunately, Strowman is just the placeholder for right now. But he, at the same time, I feel he's trying to make the most out of his title run. He's doing the best he can with it, so it's fine. But yeah, again, if Strowman or if Miz and Morrison would have won, I'd have been okay. Would you like to see them defend it with the Freebird rule, where either of them could defend it?
I don't know if they could pull it off like the New Day.
Okay,
that's the only thing. It's not a bad concept, but only certain people can do it. Just because we have a faction, anytime they win a title doesn't mean they necessarily always have to do the Freebird rule. The only two exceptions I've seen so far is the New Day and the Undisputed Era. It's different. Let's say Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager defeated Cody for the TNT Championship. Would you really want to see that as a Freebird rule with the Inner Circle? Or even in Impact. Let's use a different example, so I'm not just dogging on AEW the entire time. Let's say you have the Rascals. That's the group they have there for Impact. Let's say Trey Miguel beats Willie Mack. Let's say it's Wentz and Trey Miguel. They beat Willie Mack for the X Division Championship. Would you want that to be Freebird rule for those guys?
But the difference is because both Miz and Morrison are people that I want to see, and I believe both Miz and Morrison. If you were to give either one of them the Universal Championship, I would be 1,000% okay with that. So I think that to me is the only difference. Is they're both legitimate. They could both be legitimate Universal Champions.
I can see that.
That's my only argument. Like,
right.
With the Undisputed Era, I would love to see. I want to see all four members of the Undisputed Era. I want to see them all wrestle. I want to see all members of the New Day wrestle. So that's the difference, I think.
I 3 of them. I saw only one thing from NXT this week, and it was the therapy segment for Roderick Strong after he's doing the stuff with Dexter Lumis. It's pretty funny. Go check it out on the YouTube channel.
Okay, well, I know we've been talking about this a lot, so we need to wrap this up and move on. But I thought the actual in-ring match between Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley was actually a good match. I know why the finish was what it was. Mm-hmm. I thought the execution of the finish was a little sloppy. It just seemed kind of awkward. Like the end of it seemed kind of awkward. But I thought the in-ring action, I was pleasantly surprised at how well Bobby Lashley brought it. And again, I know what they're doing, but go ahead.
I like aspects of the Raw commentary team. Like we make jokes about it, but I actually like Byron Saxton that he does play his babyface role to a T. I'm not the biggest Tom Phillips fan in the world. I'm not. There's some shows I like him. I'm generally indifferent to his commentary. I think Samoa Joe is really good at what he does, and I thought he was really good not only in this match but also the main event as well. But when you have those moments, like you were saying, maybe the finish, that execution came out sloppy. I think a lot of those things could be hidden by the energy that comes off on commentary, and it happens a lot. It happens a lot with Michael Cole, where he no-sells something that happens on the outside. I remember every time I watch Impact, Josh Matthews will try to predict out the finish of the match before it actually ends. And that takes away from what you're watching, right? And
He's so bad. I'm sorry, Josh Matthews.
He is.
Go ahead.
This is just a knock for me from a commentary point, because obviously I'm a broadcast, right? Like, I haven't seen anybody since Mauro Ranallo and maybe JR, maybe Kevin Kelly for another exception outside of WWE. Out of those three guys, I haven't seen anybody been able to really tap into that actual energy of what the matches are supposed to be. And I think a lot of opinions of different feuds, matches, shows as a whole would have a different vibe if you had somebody who had that energy. I'm not saying it's me. I never had the chance to do so. I don't know if I can do it. But for me, like, that's really the essential thing. There was a lot of crappy matches in the Attitude Era that looked way better in hindsight because JR called the match. Even if it's a silly thing like Crash Holly running into the cat and JR would sell it, or the King, you know, something needs to change with the commentary on WWE as far as capturing those moments that happen outside the ring, because they no sell it every single time, and sometimes they call these matches like golf matches, and I don't know, it takes the fun out of it.
What if, and I don't know if this would ever happen, would you like to see Kevin Kelly come back and be the head of the Raw commentary team?
I would like to. I just don't know if Kevin Kelly would do it, you know? That's the thing.
Yeah, but
Kevin does a great job at New Japan, though. I'll say that.
Hey, listen, you put enough zeros at the end of that check, I'm sure Kevin Kelly would be on there on Monday night. I'm just saying.
Right. I want to mention really quick with the McIntyre Lashley match. I thought that was really good. Really good action. And I heard that McIntyre and Lashley actually pitched the idea of them having their feud with each other, and I hope this continues. So I really liked that match. So
I think it was great. Okay, now unexpectedly, we got another pre-produced match between the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. I didn't realize they were going to go into a pre-produced match. I don't know about you, Josh, but I was dying laughing throughout the whole thing. With all the backs and forth, I thought was incredible. When they teamed up to become the Viking Prophets and then took on the Ninjas, that was, oh my. When Tozawa showed up and started doing the ninja thing, and he was like, oh, I got this. And he's like, no, you don't, get back. What are you doing? He's got a sword. Like, oh my God. I thought it was unbelievable.
I almost forgot the NXT talent. I forgot there was a developmental talent that was almost 8 feet tall. that was the thing that started popping me.
Right. No, that was I didn't know who that was, but what's his name?
Jordan something. I can't pronounce his last name, but man, that guy is freaking huge. And then they obviously showed up on Raw too, which is funny.
I think I joked about with you. Was like, is this WWE giving a shot to the Dark Order? Because they're like, oh, is that Ninja 1? Oh, is that Ninja 2? You know, like because the Dark Order has number 10 and number 9 or whatever. So, but I thought I could not stop laughing with the whole Viking Prophets. I think it was great, and they're teaming up to be superpowers and all that stuff. I thought it was just absolutely hilarious. Then, of course, the next night on Raw, which we'll talk about, the Big Show is actually suggesting that they have a wrestling match for a tag team title belt. I know, what a concept, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I thought it was great, Josh. Did you like the pre-produced match?
I thought it was a good comedy let-up segment. I know a lot of people were upset that we just didn't get the match because some people have been liking these skits between the Street Profits and Viking Raiders, and then there's other people who like, oh, why don't you take tag team wrestling seriously? You know, this is one part of the show where you need a comedy segment. And I thought the one thing that's bad about wrestling is bad comedy. It would have been bad if it was not funny. Right. The difference that we have to make here. So
sure. Because there have been some segments over the years that WWE has tried to be funny, and it's just not been good at all. Like, so I agree with you on that. But I'm looking forward to their match on Raw next week.
Dawkins doing the what was it, the pounce through the door through Ivar. I felt bad for him. I don't know what this running gag is, or we have to keep mentioning that Ivar's cute. Hell,
I love it.
Is that all I have to do? Do I need to grow my fucking beard out like a bike?
Josh, I think you need to get a beard. And then I'll be next to you, and then somebody can look at me and go, "You, not so much." So I'll be your Eric. I'll be the Eric to your Ivar.
Why doesn't Eric say that he's just married? He's like, it's okay, I'm married. Obviously, I know Sarah Logan's not with the company anymore, but hey, he did well for himself, waterfall wise. I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then Josh, and I know we've been on this for a while, but we need to talk about the main event. That was just the Edge Orton thing. That was one of the best wrestling matches I've seen in 2020. Just their storytelling back and forth. I loved every aspect of it from the very beginning. The ring introductions, having, voicing over the Fink, that was awesome. Charles Robinson in the old school referee, I thought that was great. Them, and I don't know, what it took them a while to figure this concept out, but pumping in the crowd noise to me was awesome. It made me feel like I was actually at a live event again. The in-ring action was incredible. The finish, Orton has used the punt, which I haven't seen him use in, 10 years, maybe even longer. So I thought anyone that said that Edge can't go is absolutely full of themselves. Edge can go just as well as he could. Maybe not just as well, but for 43 years old, he can go just as well as anybody. And he was terrific. Unfortunately, he sustained an injury at the end of that match, which is really sad. And I hope we wish him a speedy recovery. But to me, Josh, that might have been the best wrestling match I've seen so far in 2020 was Edge versus Orton. So what did you think?
I thought it was fantastic. It's just, you have matches like that and you're reminded why you're a wrestling fan. And it's hard sometimes when I typed out the transcribe of these shows. I never want to get to the point where I'm jaded and desensitized to everything that I see, because I see a lot of the similarities and similar style of matches in all these different promotions. But when you have something like that with Edge and Orton, it just feels good. It's just another reminder that, hey, it's okay to be a wrestling fan. Wrestling is fun. And I just felt like a kid watching it again, I was a baby when Edge made his WWE debut in 99. I was, what was I, 5 years old at the time, something like that, I remember when Randy Orton made his debut, and I was in second grade. I've seen these guys. This is my childhood, seeing these guys their entire career, and it was just really special. Everything you said about the presentation with Howard Finkel, it got me with goosebumps while I was watching it live. The match layout was good, believable. I thought it was a really good match. Obviously, unforeseen pressure to have that moniker over everybody's head, but like we talked about beforehand, like the greatest wrestling match is the story that's told in the ring, right? And that's what they showcase. What you do in that ring cancels out everything beforehand. Honestly, I know it's a television show, and yeah, you want to get hooked on promos and character development and all that. But for me, as a pro wrestling fan, the story I care about and the story that I want is told in that ring. And I had to give a shout out to Samoa Joe, because I think he really helped out that match a lot in what he did during that match. So props to Edge. Like, I agree with you. I think there's kind of a misperception. I think Edge has been kind of underrated as far as a technical wrestler is concerned. Obviously, we know Edge to be one of the all-time legends as far as being a heel and being one of the greatest champions ever. But just as a actual wrestler, I think he's underrated in that point of view. And if Randy Orton's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know what to tell you. Honestly, I don't know if anybody in wrestling right now is more intact with their character right now in wrestling than Randy Orton right now.
Oh, that's I like that, and you're right. I here's the thing, we always talk about this, and Orton even said, he's like, I don't need a title to prove I'm the greatest wrestler of all time, and like, I'm not going to deny that. Same with Charlotte Flair. Like, right. Charlotte, I don't need a title to be relevant. That's when you know you've arrived. Is because not because if you need the title to be relevant, that doesn't mean that says something about the limitations of your character. But you think of some of these certain superstars: Randy Orton,
Right.
Charlotte Flair, Bray Wyatt, down in NXT, Finn Balor. It's like Damian Priest. If they took the title off Adam Cole, that'd be fine. Velveteen Dream, like certain characters, you want to see them,
right?
Not for titles. Like it just doesn't matter. And Randy Orton might be at the top of the list, which I love. Which let's go ahead and transition into the next night, Josh, because that storyline kind of led into Raw the next night. So I want to transition into Raw right now, and it was cool to see Christian back. It really was. I was glad to see him back. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a short match. I thought it was kind of weird how all of a sudden Ric Flair has inserted himself into this segment, and maybe he was just trying to protect Christian. I don't know. But then you just have Randy Orton giving a quick punt, and then Christian has to all of a sudden get medical attention. So, what did you think of Christian's involvement in all of this?
Let me just say, I'll always be down for listening to Christian promos because the guy just could talk on the mic. Like
Captain Charisma.
That opening segment with Randy Orton and Christian was just good. I mean, I don't know how these NXT talents that are around the ringside area are not taking notes for what's going on right now as far as cutting promos during this pandemic era, and just whether it's Edge or Orton or Christian or Seth Rollins, for example, like you're getting some really, really good stuff right there to jot down. And I'm kind of curious to see what comes out of these pandemic shows when we get crowds back. Like what translates? Are the performers more comfortable just talking their promos when the crowds are back, or they're going to get that nerves tick again, or they feel like there's somebody hovering over their shoulder, like just a loose environment that's going on right now, which I really appreciate. And, maybe on surface it looks a little odd that Ric Flair was there, but they did have the backstage segment beforehand where Christian was talking to Ric Flair about going out and setting this match. And I knew this wasn't going to be a match. We already heard the reports that Christian can't have a full-on match right now, and I just thought it was some good heat. It's happening what I was talking about a couple of minutes ago. Randy Orton's just really in tune with his character right now, and right now he's the most dangerous guy on the WWE roster as far as character work is concerned, and you believe it because you're seeing what he's doing right now. So, yeah, he doesn't need the WWE title. He can go get it if he wants. Randy Orton now is the measuring stick on the Raw brand. That's the story now. And that's what I took away from it.
Because, for a long time, they were pushing Seth Rollins as to be the measuring stick for Raw, but now all of a sudden has that narrative switched to Randy Orton, and you believe it has?
I think it has, but also that's not a knock on Seth because he's also been into it with his character. The only difference between Seth and Randy Orton, the character of Seth Rollins is kind of oblivious to things that are around his world because he's a heel and he's calling himself a messiah. Randy Orton is Randy Orton, so that's the difference there.
Sure,
but that's not a bad thing because Seth Rollins is playing. There's different layers of heels in pro wrestling, so that's what it is.
No, and that's a good point. And Seth Rollins, I mean, the Monday Night Messiah character is just fantastic.
Yes,
like he has been just. I mean, Josh, you and I talk about it all the time. You think Seth Rollins is one of the best in the company right now?
Yes, I do think Seth Rollins is definitely in the top 5 of main roster WWE performers right now. And the segment he had with Rey Mysterio and Dominic on Raw this Monday was really good. I never thought in 2020 this would be a long layered story in a feud that would actually go down. And whenever this match does happen with Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, think about it. These guys never really had that one-on-one match. Mm-hmm. And when we get to that, I think it's going to be very special. And as far as in-ring work, I'm not worried about that at all because I know Ray and Seth would tear the house
down. Yeah. Do you think that they can hold that off till SummerSlam, or do they need to have it at Extreme Rules?
I think they could. But again, what's the end game here, and what's really going to happen? Because honestly, you could stretch a lot of what's going on with Rey Mysterio right now out to WrestleMania. So think about it. You have WrestleMania in Hollywood. How interesting it would be if Ray had his final match at WrestleMania next year against his own son. Let's say like Dominic turns on Ray at SummerSlam. Then you have Ray out of the television. Then he comes back. Something like that. Booking sessions with Joshie on the Hoots podcast. But I have a good gauge like conceptual ideas that could come up with, but I really think it could work out like that. I just think they've been doing really good stuff, and Seth Rollins is the man right now. So
he's absolutely fantastic. Let's see the other big. I guess probably the other big thing that I want to talk about this week. Well, actually, I'm gonna go to you, Josh. What else did you like from Raw this week?
I like what's going on with the dissension going on with Angel Garza and Andrade. If that's a feud that's going to happen soon, I'm all for that. I am kind of curious to see. I'm not concerned or anything like that. That'd be an exaggeration. I want to know what's next for Kevin Owens. So let's say Randy is going to take a break now with Christian and the whole Edge thing. What if Randy gets into a program with Kevin Owens now? And
how interesting would that be in that program to have Kevin Owens as the face, which I think is interesting because I mean I've always thought Kevin Owens has been one of the best heels in the last 10 years, but he's fine as a baby face. I have no problem with him as a baby face, but it'd be interesting with him and Orton as a heel. I like that.
Also, I never thought the word "thought" would be cleared on television in 2020, but somebody like me who has no filter, I appreciate that. I thought that was really funny. MVP, I keep saying that. It's become a broken record right now, but he's literally been the MVP of the shows over the last couple of months.
And actually, Josh, with him, one of the things that I'm really intrigued about is the Natalya-Lana pairing.
I saw that, yeah.
I actually really like that idea. You know, what you could do, and I started thinking about this, and this is like crazy real-world fantasy booking, but so you create this faction of disgruntled female employees who are going to try to take back the division, or who are going to try to take back the women's roster.
You'll be right.
You start with Natalya and Lana. You add Zelina Vega because she can't control Angel Garza and Andrade, so she becomes disgruntled. She joins them, and then you kind of have this female NWO takeover kind of faction, where they start taking over, and then all of a sudden Natty could win. If you're looking for someone to challenge Asuka, Natty could come in, be the leader of this stable, eventually be the Raw Women's Champion, and have her WWO, the Women's World Order or something like that, taking over, and you can start to bring up, if you want to bring up somebody from NXT who's been disgruntled, to bring that up. I could see a kind of a female NWO type stable forming.
I like that. I like the idea Bret Carter do. I would like to see more Bianca Belair on my screen.
Where's she been? The EST?
I don't know. Maybe you could add Ruby Riott to that group that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. I think that could work. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I just want to see who's next for Asuka because I don't see, like, are we going to have a tables match with Nia Jax at Extreme Rules?
You know who the next person for Asuka is.
Woo! No, they got to hold it off.
Damn it, you're right. But that's who we want to see. They're the two best in the world. Like, and you know what though, Josh? That could actually here's another thing, and I just thought of this. That's not good for the Raw Women's division because on paper, the Raw Women's division is stacked with talent,
right.
But it seems like they're not doing it. I mean, you've got Charlotte and Asuka. Nia Jax is kind of my stock on Nia Jax is starting to dwindle a little bit. I believe are Carmella and Dana Brooke on Raw?
SmackDown.
Oh, they're on SmackDown. Okay.
If you want a ladies, women NWO, it should be on the SmackDown brand. Because everything is about Bayley and Sasha Banks, and whoever wants to come out that week, have Alexa Bliss be the leader of that group. You have Alexa, you got Nikki Cross, you have Carmella, you can have Tamina as the heater.
Could be. Or that this WWO just appears wherever. Like they're not just limited to Raw. They just they can show up wherever. They can make an appearance in NXT and beat somebody down.
I think we need to come to the grips that the brand split is ending soon.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's had to because of the pandemic. You know,
I thought, honestly, for me speaking, I think the brand split should have been ended for a few months now, actually, even before the lockdown.
Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about because we've been at this for a while. We should talk about that next week. That'd be a good debate topic. Is should the brand extension and anything else from Raw that takeaway for you from Raw?
Again, I really enjoyed that stuff with Seth Rollins and Dominic. Dominic obviously got Rey Mysterio speed. That guy was super, super fast. Let me see if I pull up my screen here really quick. The stuff with Truth and McIntyre is pretty funny.
Oh, God, yes.
I don't know
who.
I think Truth probably be the best comedian wrestler of all time.
Oh God, yeah.
He's tremendous. And then finally, from Raw, like I was wondering this with you, because you point this stuff out a lot. I was wondering if you were bummed out that we didn't get a Big Show heel turn.
Don't worry, it's coming. I mean, they still have to do another week of Raw television, so Big Show can turn heel next week. It's fine.
You want to know my other favorite part of Raw was?
What's that?
Iconics sharing truth serum to Sasha Banks and Bayley.
Yes, they have been. I've been missing the Iconics, man. I'm so glad that they're back.
Peyton Royce is so hot, man.
I know it. She is. That's that down under waterfall.
Yes, Kangaroo waterfall.
Fantastic. But no, it's great. But no, it's been a good show. Raw was great this week. Always looking forward to next week. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's just really quickly. I read the results of NXT. I actually think NXT could be a good show this week. Io Shirai is kind of giving it to Bayley and Sasha at the end of the show, which I'm always happy about.
Right.
It looks like they're setting up something interesting with some sort of combination of the NXT Heavyweight Championship and the North American Championship. It seems like they're kind of interweaving those two titles, which I think could be interesting.
Yeah, so it's going to be Keith Lee against Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano in a triple threat match next week on NXT. The winner of that match will take on Adam Cole for the NXT title the following week, which will be July the 8th, which is a couple days after 4th of July. But also on that night, it's night 2 of Fyter Fest for AEW. So I thought that was an interesting booking decision there. Man, who you think would be Adam Cole's a double champion? If that's the case, he's probably the best wrestler in the world.
I don't think they would make Adam Cole a double champion.
But would Adam Cole lose the title on the NXT television show?
Oh, probably not. Maybe they're just trying to convince him to stay, because I've heard rumors that he's.
I had an epiphany. Killer Cross is going to come in to intervene in that match, so they'll have a decisive finish there.
Got it.
There you go.
Yeah, because Killer Cross has got a match next week with
Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
I think Killer Cross is just going to crush him, just to help set up the for next week. But okay, Josh, let's get into AEW Dynamite this week. Let's get into AEW Dynamite. A couple positive things from the show this week before we get into a new segment that I would like to debut here on the podcast, that Hoots, here in a little bit. You and I were talking about this last night, Josh, and this may be a hot take, and you can send all your hate tweets to me at Derek Stoughton, but I think Sammy Guevara is the star of the Inner Circle, even more than Chris Jericho. Like Sammy Guevara every week just gets better and better and better, and he is clearly, when the Inner Circle was formed, Guevara was there to be the new. They needed a new guy to kind of learn the ropes or whatever, to be the young buck, if you will.
Yeah.
But Sammy Guevara he's outshined Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hagar, and it's not close. Like his stuff, Jericho was already established, so that's why Jericho's going to be Jericho no matter what.
Right.
I think Sammy Guevara has put himself within the inner circle. I mean, on point if he has not surpassed Jericho with his in-ring talent, with his look, with his comedic timing, his just douchey. He looks like a complete douche, but it works for him. It works for him. So I am all in on Sammy Guevara for sure. What do you think about that?
He definitely reminds me of somebody I went to high school with. That's for sure. Yeah, I like Sammy Guevara. It was interesting. Now thinking back about this, like Sammy Guevara was the first wrestler featured on Dynamite. Sammy Guevara had the first match in All Elite Wrestling against Times New Roman font. And if Sammy Guevara is the breakout guy, not only for the inner circle, but also for AEW as a brand, I think that's a good accomplishment for them. I mean, how many times do you watch their shows and it's always about the former WWE talents that got released and they're in their feelings? And so
hold on, Josh. Not yet.
But I like Sammy Guevara. I don't think it's necessarily a hot take. I outside of the stuff with Jericho and Orange Cassidy, which should be cool. I don't know what purpose Jericho serves on television right now, and we can talk about that later on. But I agree with you to a certain extent. Sammy Guevara is definitely the most interesting and relevant guy in the inner circle right now.
For sure. And then going on throughout the show, I mean, every week I see MJF perform. He just gets better and better and better. Like he's probably my favorite in AEW right now is MJF.
That show doesn't deserve MJF.
No. I could see MJF getting lost in the shuffle in WWE. So I think he needs a little bit more time to win a world championship, hopefully in AEW, and then eventually he can sign with WWE. But I just think right now the roster is too it's too oversaturated, the WWE roster, and I would fear that MJF would get lost in the shuffle there because he can be a superstar and he can stand out in AEW and create a buzz like Drew McIntyre did when he left. You know, he created a buzz for himself, came back, and now is at the top of the WWE mountain. So I would want to see that for MJF.
To think that MJF could pull off a 2-segment match with Billy Gunn, especially Billy in his mid-50s, that's just a testament to how good MJF is. I thought it was kind of predictable that they had to have a standoff with Jungle Jabroni and MJF on the outside. So it looks like they'll fight each other again at Fyter Fest. I don't know if that's announced yet, but that's my prediction. Or maybe they do MJF and Wardlow against the Jurassic Express, something like that.
That'd be fine.
But yeah, I love MJF. I can't give that guy enough compliments. But before you know it, the guy will probably insult me for giving him props. So think about that.
And then the other complete standout in AEW for me is Dr. Britt Baker. Like, I think she is just incredible. Passing notes to Shivani at the beginning of the show. I just want you to know, Tony, I hate your green tie. Like, that's just,
that's awesome. Great. I could tell that was bothering JR because, let's focus on the match. Let's focus on the match.
But Josh, it is now time for us to
hold
on. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
One more thing. I want to get this stuff out of the way real quick for the stuff I did like in the show. The tag title match was really good.
That was good.
Also, the main event I thought was really good. With Best Friends against the Sex Guys, I thought that was a good match. And then the funny part with Big Swole running away with Britt Baker, I thought that was pretty funny.
I will say, I actually, near the end, I didn't mind the Young Bucks match. It was kind of weird timing. I didn't mind the match, actually.
I'm saving my thoughts for that match in this segment. Let's do it.
But Josh, it is now time for us to debut a new segment here, and because this segment is going to be a recurring segment, I'd like to play you the new theme song. So now, here we go. It's time for What the Hell is Wrong with AEW?
Oh my god! I'm crying laughing right now. Brother Kyrie, you've come up with some really good ideas over years. I think this year,
This might be top of the list. When I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I need to find a theme song. I found this just comedic, this little clown song. Oh, it's great. But Josh, what the hell is wrong with AEW? I mean, okay, you get right for the. You mentioned this earlier. The natural nightmares. Like what the hell is that? Like, and then you have Allie coming out, which again, I'm always happy to see Allie on my TV. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
That's fantastic. But then all of a sudden, Allie comes out, and then all of a sudden, you lose the match just because she's standing on the like. And like you said, what kind of a team name is the Natural Nightmares? Like that's just a bizarre pairing to me. It's ridiculous. You and I talked about this on the. I mean, Kenny Omega he's a good athlete. Obviously, he has a good, and he's created this buzz about himself. But outside of him being a good athlete, like what kind of stories does he tell? Like, what's the next evolution of his character?
You had a hot take. Here's my hot take. And the real can the real Kenny Omega please show up? That's my question.
I mean, he's been obviously, what he can do in the ring because he's been having these quote unquote 6-star matches against Okada and Jericho in New Japan, which is fine. And I'm all about watching great in-ring content, but modern day professional wrestling, it's not just wrestling, it's sports entertainment. Like that's what it is.
Kenny Omega hasn't done a lick since that crappy hardcore mud show nonsense that they did for the Lights Out match. I forgot which pay-per-view it was. It was that crappy.
Right.
Okay, yeah, they had the one match with the Young Bucks, and everybody thought that was the greatest tag team match ever, which I thought that was a ridiculous statement. Not to say it wasn't a great match. It was a great match, but the Kenny Omega that I've seen in New Japan is a heel, not this passive-aggressive babyface. Cody Rhodes.
God, we're going to get to that in a second.
But not only that, I've been very consistent with this. This is one thing you get here on the Hoots podcast: transparency and consistency. I don't waver in my opinions. And what's been my biggest complaint about AEW besides identity? The referees. I'm not going to explain my reasoning. I'm going to let a professional do it for me.
Again, everyone, former sports entertainment referee Jimmy Corderas with your ref and rant for this Thursday. And wow, what a shock. I wish I didn't have to go here, but every week it's the same darn things. The refereeing in AEW has to be addressed sooner rather than later because there was a whole bunch of egregious stuff that happened on Dynamite that it just can't fly because it is a complete distraction from the match. It takes away from what is going on. I mean, like I could pick little things up with the talent and little things that they did here with their selling or whatever. That is nothing compared to what's going on with the referees. They are completely out of control. No, regardless of what people think, they are not characters and they all have their own unique presentation on how they present the rules. There's one set of rules. That's it. It's getting so bad that it's really starting to hurt the product. In my eyes, I know a lot of you don't care. I do.
I care too because I want to watch a good professional wrestling show. And I always hear it all the time, WWE really doesn't give an identity to these referees and ring announcers and blah, 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 blah. I think there's a reason for that. The only reason we know people like Rod Zapata and John Cone, because those are the same referees that are always involved in the finishes that have double countouts, disqualification for hardcore matches, like Rod was for the Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, what was it, the Hell in the Cell match? Yeah, right. We know those for those reasons. And then here on AEW, we put Aubrey Edwards on a freaking pedestal. She's a terrible ref.
She is a terrible referee. She's
a terrible ref. I laugh when Jericho calls her a terrible ref, but he's actually saying the truth.
Right. Oh my God, it's awful. Oh God, no, it's awful. It's the refereeing. Well, of course, there wasn't a great referee spot on Raw either. When at the end of the Asuka Nia Jax match, I know why they did it, but that was. Anyway.
There's a lot about today's wrestling that I do like from an in-ring point of view, but one thing I do not like is tag matches that feel like a freaking labyrinth or a jigsaw puzzle. Like, I put this out on Twitter last night. Do you really need 40 tag outs in a tag match just to say you cut the ring in half? I'm not trying to be overly picky here, but I think there's a difference with somebody cutting the ring off and working the body part as opposed to punch, tag, kick you in the ribs, tag, quick spot here, tag. It's taking the flow out of the match. You were just mentioning what's the story being told in a Kenny Omega match. Was there any story told in tag team matches in AEW? It's just moves. And once I'm done trying to jot down all these moves and try to make it presentable in a way in my transcripts, I don't remember a damn thing that I typed out because it was just all moves. It's nothing to process. It's not saying that they're not talented. Like, you thought the match with the Young Bucks and Kid Sabian and Jimmy Havoc was fine. I thought the match was a clusterfuck. I thought the match was all over the place, not only for what they did in the ring, but also you have Butcher and the Blade who are running their mouths and just suddenly could just walk around the ringside area like they're a manager. And then you have FTR come out because we got to have FTR now. They're going to get in their feud with the Young Bucks. What did that serve anybody in that match?
Let me follow up with that. When I was talking about that match, I was talking about just the in-ring action, not any of the other crap that happened around the ring. But the pace, especially near the end with all the false kickouts and stuff like that, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good. But because both is a super bad squad,
right,
and the Young Bucks, if you just let them have a wrestling match without all those gimmicks, it's actually not bad because the Young Bucks are very talented. And I actually like Jimmy Havoc. Kip Sabian's fine, I guess. He's super generic, but he's fine. Like, right. They would actually be able to have a good wrestling match with all that stupid Butcher and Blade crap and FTR crap. And oh God, it's that. Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. Let's continue on with this because that segues into Cody Rhodes. Like, Cody Rhodes is trying to. I wasn't sure about the whole Jeff Jarrett thing, but Josh, you are 1,000% right about him turning into the Jeff Jarrett thing. His promo was like, well, am I part of the elite anymore? Oh, do I even have a family anymore? Oh, well, it's fine. It's all good. I'm the TNT champion. Like, he's starting to exude those heel tendencies. And then Arn Anderson helps him cheat to win his match against Ricky. What's his last name?
Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks, yeah. By the way, he actually was. He seems like he's a good wrestler.
That was the one thing I forgot to mention before we got into the segment. As far as positives, I thought the match with Ricky and Cody was really good.
Cody is a good wrestler. Cody is a good wrestler, but it's very obvious that he's trying to. It's his company, so he's trying to boost himself up, in this stuff. And now at Fyter Fest, we're gonna get Stardust versus Jack Swagger. Boy, that's gonna put some butts in the seats, isn't it? Good God.
That's brutal. By the way, what does it say about Jon Moxley and Taz that they can't find a way to start off a show, start the second hour of the show, or main event a show? Am I the only wrestling fan that notices that the world champion is rarely featured in the key prominent spots of a television show? Does that not appeal to Tony Khan because he's such an ECW mark and they never went with any formats back then in the ECW shows?
Ridiculous.
Like, I said it last week. I'm excited for the potential of a Jon Moxley Brian Cage match. I like the promos that Taz has been doing. If anything, Taz has been doing the best promo work in AEW over the last couple months. I think he's been doing great. I think he does a great job on AEW Dark. Hell, it takes me 2.5 hours to type out AEW Dark now because each show is 90 minutes. So think about that. almost 2 hour show. It don't take me 2 hours and a half just to type it down. I don't know why they're doing so many matches on Dark now, but anyways, I like what Taz is doing. This is your world title program. Probably going to be one of the main events. I know. Well, I shouldn't say that now because AEW. You don't really know what's the main event now. Like, you have a world title program, and it's the second to last thing you see before the main event of the show. Just brief promos, blah 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 blah. Like, okay, yes, I understand that Moxley's main event with Jake Hager didn't really do a difference, but that's not a reflection on Moxley. You are the ones that booked Jake Hager to fight Jon Moxley to try to recreate a match with Brock Lesnar that sucked, and he also had a match for your world title that sucked. Worse than that match.
and then remember, Josh, Brody Lee was going to be the savior of the Dark Order, and he was going to be the one. We were bringing him in. He's the exalted one. We're going to immediately throw him into the world title picture. Well, what's happened after he lost his world title? He hasn't had a match. He's barely been on television for the last few weeks. He's now trying to recruit Colt Cabana and Anna Jay. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think they may actually get Anna Jay because they aired the Anna Jay promo right before, how she's happy-go-lucky, whatever. Now she's 0-3 in AEW, which they're going to say, well, as soon as you join us, your 0-3 record is going to get turned around or whatever. But
what did they recruit Abaddon?
Why didn't they recruit Abaddon? Like, she's a perfect character for the Dark Order. And I know we don't try to dissect booking on the show, Josh, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's different from nitpicking booking and seeing things that are right in front of your screen. I think there's a lot of semantical things that people harp on with WWE because they have an agenda towards it. And when I watch AEW, I'm trying to watch the show for what it is, but they send me mixed messages. So how is that supposed to correlate to me as a viewer of their show when they send me mixed messages? We want serious wrestling presentation, and we got the Dark Order, and it's just an island of misfit toys there. And I'm not saying that pro wrestling can have a wild, wild west feel to it at times, but they have their formatting of their shows sucks. Their match pairings suck. I'm not going to go all in the jungle and say their booking sucks because I don't know anything about booking. These are just assessments from my point of view of watching their show every week, and I break down their shows every single week. And they got to do a lot more, man, because the fact that you have Jon Moxley, who was supposed to be this game changer, remember the promo where he made it say, this is a paradigm shift. What shift? What shift has AEW made?
Right.
They started.
Well, Josh, and let's think about it. Tony Khan sent out a tweet last night. I'm going to read a tweet to you, Josh, and I want you to give your response to this. So this is Tony Khan replying to Dave Meltzer. We've tried to set a standard by frequently opening with great matches we believe can stand up besides whatever you watched prior, like Kenny versus Pac, Nick versus Phoenix, and many others. I enjoyed the opening tag tonight, too. Watch whatever you want before Dynamite. I'll take my chances. Your response.
You have a promoter who's trying to one-up a dirt sheet rider by justifying that you need a wrestling match to hook you on a wrestling TV show. Is that the goal? Is that what we're doing here? We need a match to appease Dave Meltzer's precious eyes, where his first love NJPW goes down a notch. Is that what we're doing here?
It's ridiculous. It's what is AEW's purpose? Like, are they trying to, or is this? Are they actually trying to provide entertainment? Or is this just Tony Khan's baby basically playing with a wrestling company because he has the money to do so?
There's nothing wrong with advertising saying that you want your wrestling show to have really good wrestling. There's nothing wrong with that. But using that as a crux to hook viewers, okay, we're going to guarantee you we're going to have a great wrestling match. You can see that in 7 freaking wrestling shows a week. Hell, go to ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com and see all the great matches you can see from Impact, from MLW to New Japan, WWE, AEW, all these other promotions. They all have great opening contests. You're saying that the North and the Rascals World Tag Team title match from Impact wasn't good? Was it on the standard of this match that we saw last night on Dynamite? Like, that's just a silly comment, man. And the fact that he would engage in that dialogue with Dave Meltzer, his hero, that just shows you everything you need to know.
Josh, I think that's anything else.
I think we hit the jugular.
I think we did too. Let's get it. This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW. Josh, I love it. Oh my God, that's going to be great.
Ladies and gentlemen, please send us your reaction to the intro clip. I want to want some feedback for the segment, and also I can't wait to see Matt's reaction when he hears the song.
I almost want to play the clip one more time just because it's so...
Which one, the intro or the outro?
Oh, the outro clip. Hold on, we're gonna do this one more time.
Okay.
This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW. Oh gosh.
I think it's probably the best show we've done so far.
Oh God. Okay, real quick, Josh, because we're running short of time.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, let's just talk about SmackDown real quick, and then I'll let you give your address your monologue that you wanted to make. The two big things I'm excited about were SmackDown this week that have been advertised: the return of the Firefly Funhouse, Bray Wyatt coming back. Looking forward to that. And then Miz TV is going to have the former team of Fire and Desire, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, in a sit-down interview. It'll be interesting to see how they pair that with the Miz and Morrison antics from Backlash. But I'm looking forward to SmackDown this week.
Note to Bruce Pritchard and everybody at Fox: more Renee Young, please.
Yes, yes, please.
Renee Young. I'm curious to see what happens with Daniel Bryan following his awesome match with AJ Styles. Looks like AJ's gonna have a celebration, if you will, on SmackDown tomorrow.
Wait, there's one other thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one other thing. Matt Riddle is debuting next week.
Oh, tomorrow night. Yes.
Tomorrow night, yes.
That's gonna be fantastic.
Hey, maybe that's AJ Styles' next opponent is Matt Riddle.
I don't know if Matt Riddle's going to get an IC title off the bat like that, but it's not a bad idea. Honestly, I think Matt Riddle should start off with Corbin.
That's not a bad idea. I like that too. Well, it looks like Corbin might be doing something with Otis, though.
Hey, when you're the king, you can get under anybody's skin, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Matt Riddle on SmackDown. That's going to be great. So, okay, Josh, before we wrap things up this week, you wanted to address something and give a little monologue. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah. So over the last few months, I've really been trying my best to stay out of the loop as far as like dirt sheets and websites and stuff like that. Not out of disrespect towards anybody in particular. I know Brother Carter does great work on WrestlingRumors.net and stuff like that, but like, for me, I really needed a break from that type of content, just the overall dialogue and stuff that goes on wrestling Twitter every single week, because it gets really taxing, and it also makes you enjoy the product less as a fan, because no matter what you watch, there's always somebody whining and throwing a hissy fit about it on Twitter. And there's just observations that I have from the background of overseeing conversations on Twitter, shows like this, websites. And I'm noticing a lot of grandstanding and a lot of narratives and conversations that caters to one side of the wrestling spectrum. And me and Adam have talked about this till the cows go home. Authenticity will always outweigh work in the audience. And It's not just say only for wrestling shows and promotions and bookers. That also does for shows like this, websites. What we share on this show is authentic. What I share in my transcripts are authentic. You could agree or disagree with anything we say. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I'll just say that openly free. I'm not afraid of being wrong because I want to learn. That's the difference. When I transcribe a show, I'm challenging myself to learn something new about the industry every day because obviously there's not a school for play-by-play commentators for pro wrestling. So it's a challenge when I make these transcripts to learn something new. And shocker, in 2020, I just want to enjoy a wrestling show instead of having the minutia of what's supposed to be booked and not booked in the back of my head. And I kind of feel guilty about that because I've been in this line of work for 7 years now. And I know all the lingo. I know all the thoughts people have before a match happens or indecisive finish happens. I know what I'm going to get before I see it happening. And that's bad. That's really bad because I can tell when a shitstorm's happening before it happens. In some cases, it's justified. But I think a lot of the pretending to be fake mad on social media is just getting overboard. And it's not just wrestling. It's politics. It's life. It's relationship. People just have a reason to be upset and whine every day. That's it. They find the littlest thing to be in their feelings about. That's just the God honest truth. And when I watch wrestling, I watch it as an escape. It's my escape from reality, you know? Do I have the honor and privilege that I can make a living out of covering pro wrestling? Yes, and I appreciate it every single day. I really do. And I appreciate people like you that listen to the show every single week because we're having a conversation. These are just two brothers as if I was sitting next to Brett Carter and we're talking about something that we love, you know? And I do this every single week. I try to get better every single week. I challenge myself to be a better broadcaster, to be a better transcriber, to be a better person. And it sucks that when I see my colleagues grandstand and act like they're holier than thou than some of these other people who do other shows and stuff like that, I think it's embarrassing, to be honest with you. I think there needs to be a lot of reevaluation in how we conduct ourselves on social media and the messages that we say because here's another thing, sources. That was a big thing that I was talking about the other day on Twitter. I'm too upfront as a person to hide behind secondhand information. That's just how I'm wired. Now, being in the media industry, I know why sources exist. I know every aspect of the media business. I know why sources work the way they do and how they get revealed and the layouts and all that. Do they serve a purpose? That's up to you to say. For me, when I see screen caps of things of, WrestleVotes tweeted this out. He has the backstage source texting him messages of what's going to happen down the road in these things. Yeah, it's good for Twitter jargon and the wrestling bubble to have a conversation about, but is it accurate all the time? Like I said, are we working the audience just to throw conversation and start a shitstorm that's not going to happen? You remember Dave Meltzer a few years ago was like, Braun Strowman's going to fight The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And that didn't happen, right? And I just want transparency. I don't think that's too much to ask, to be honest with you, you know? And I just think the whole sourcing thing, and then, you know, it's really unfortunate what happened with the developmental talent that got caught with COVID-19. I think the way that was also covered was kind of disappointing too, because all the arguments was about, how WWE was wrong to not have the talent to wear face mask and all that. Well, let me know what the actual health of the talent is. That's the actual news. That's what you should be focusing on. I mean, we all could do nitpicking and point out the flaws of this person and be the morally correct police to the cows go home on any aspect of life. But what about the person that actually got caught with the COVID-19? Where's the news on that? We're just having debates about, oh, see, I told you WWE doesn't know what they're doing with handling the pandemic. Yet you see last night on Dynamite, nobody's wearing masks at ringside for a show that was taped a week prior. And we're having this Pier 6 brawl with MJF and Jurassic Express, and they got 9 people all next to each other trying to pull each other apart in a brawl. And MJF just had a 2-second match. He's all sweaty. They're in Florida. Think about that. I'm really getting tired of the double standards that are applied in wrestling conversations these days, and I think it really needs to change. So I know I talked a lot there, but I really need to get all that off my chest.
That's great, man. That's a great way to end.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's as somebody who is not in the wrestling media, and I. I'm not a professional broadcaster, and I've said that multiple times on this show. I am not a professional broadcaster. I'm not I'm just somebody who is a fan and has been given and blessed with a platform thanks to the hard work of my dear friend and brother and colleague, Brother Adam, for that. But, Josh, you're exactly, I understand that the pundits and the people who cover this need something to talk about. I get that, and I understand that. And I also understand that by pointing out negatives, that's, as human beings, we are inherently drawn to negativity. And, oh, they didn't do this well. Oh, they didn't do this well. Oh, we're going to hell. It's
right.
We're drawn to that. I understand that. But how is that helping anybody right now? Like, especially, you're talking about, we're in a crazy time where wrestling could be seen as wrestling could be seen as an opportunity to people to come together and to be given a sports platform in a time where we need sports. So for people to be bashing the product and bashing the criticism of everything, look, when was the last time that a manual was given to all sports executives and said, okay, when a pandemic strikes, these are the procedures that you follow?
Right. Nobody has the book for it.
There's no answer to any of this. There's no answer to when you reopen. There's no answer to how you reopen. There's no answer because we've never faced anything like this before. So it's and we all know this, it's way easier to hide behind a computer screen or hide behind your Twitter feed and immediately throw shade at everybody when you're not going to get anything back. Like, you should be thanking the people that are at least trying to give us something that we also desperately need right now. So I think it's just, you're exactly right, Josh. People are trying to, oh, that didn't work. Well, do you have a better idea, genius? Like, what do we say? Okay, well, we're not going to have anything at all. Well, you can't have that. Oh, why are these wrestling companies not putting out a product? They can do it. You just said we couldn't do it because of how we're handling this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they always go with the crutch of, if they find something that fits their narrative, they're going to go with, oh, see, typical WWE logic, even on something that they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Even something they don't even have a full grasp of what's actually happening. I have a buddy of mine who works for WWE. It's a referee. His name is Referee Brewer. Give a shout out to him. I saw a tweet of him he put out the other day. He was saying that people are all off base with the scanning and temperature checks and all this stuff that was going on with these shows that are being taped. Now, it's not just the Performance Center where they're taping these shows. NXT runs at Full Sail when they do these tapings as well. Mm-hmm. And again, until you have a full 100% proof of what's actually happening, stop making assumptions because you're making an ass out of you and me. And I just think we could do a lot better as a wrestling media contingent on not trying to always harp on the things that fit on our narrative and actually address what's really happening. That's news. That's media. That's not to say, oh, you have to be positive 100%. I understand how this industry works. I do. I understand how it works. And other times we're balanced and we have our constructive criticisms over other stuff on the show. Yeah. But I think what's getting lost is we're putting our own agendas ahead of what's actually going on in the industry. And I think it hurts not only the product, it hurts the future of the industry, because all you see on Twitter, do you see love and passion and just synergy over the world of professional wrestling when you go on social media?
No.
I don't.
No.
I don't. We take this sport, this form of entertainment for granted, and I think it's embarrassing, to be honest with you. And that's the crux of my problem.
I agree with you, man. Like, it's very rarely. I mean, now, to be fair, every sport is bashed on Twitter, but for some reason, something about professional wrestling just resonates with fans, bring out their negative side, and I don't get it.
Right.
I don't get it at all. But Josh, unfortunately, we are out of time. We've been at this for a long time, but thank you so much for the opportunity to host. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's always great when we get to hang out and spend time together, and it's going to be fantastic. So, quick plugs, Josh. Where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. Also on Instagram, Joshie Lopez 94. That's JOSHIE Lopez 94. Also check out Josh Lopez music as well. And finally, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. I'm currently covering the New Japan Cup, which just started on Monday. It's been a lot of fun covering those shows. Suzuki and Nagata just basically did forearms and slap exchanges for 20 minutes the other day, which I thought was awesome. And that, by the way, is my PWT match of the week. Minoru Suzuki against Yuji Nagata. So make sure you check out ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. And again, Brett Carter, you killed it again. It was really cool to switch roles today. So
thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. It was absolutely a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity. You can follow me on Twitter at Derek Stoughton. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dereko06. Be sure to check out my work on WrestlingRumors.net for all of your needs there. And we will be back next week for episode 211 of the Hoots podcast. But until then, for Brother Adam, for Brother Carter, I leave you with this.
Subscribe, everybody. Subscribe everywhere.
With AEW. See you next week, folks.